What you're looking at right now is a reveal of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. A game years in the making that finally let Link do horseback battles against its enemies in a big world open for the player to explore. Something that the team behind it wanted to add into the franchise since the release of Ocarina of Time. A game well received by the public, hated by its developers, and a grimmer turn into the franchise that the fans had been asking for a long time. Back then, it was a time for hype and intrigue in the franchise, since it had come a long way from this. The first Legend of Zelda, a game released in 1986 that popularized the open world adventure formula even all those years ago, and then ate the world when Ocarina of Time released, considered one of the best games ever created, even now. A game that expanded the original Zelda and its follow-up formula to create a true Zelda experience in the 3D world. A jump in generations that had a massive impact in the world. Zelda became this massive name that couldn't do wrong, since release after release it proved that it was a franchise that understood the task behind their games, give players a beautiful world to explore, and well, let them do it. One thing that even games from now are kind of lacking. But not everything was roses and lily pads. The franchise, after finding this successful formula, it stagnated in bringing new things to it. Even Miyamoto and Eiji Onuma, the primary director of the games, had a hard time excusing the existence of even Twilight Princess. The game you saw fans scream of joy just because of its existence. They didn't want to create a new mainline Zelda if they didn't have something to add and bring a natural evolution to the franchise. We can see it in past games. Ocarina was the first in this line of games, revolutionizing gaming in its conception. Then Majora's Mask was a rush sequel that implemented a real-time day-to-day events, having a living world outside your character, making this a fan favorite and in top of favorite Zelda games for a lot of people. Even mine. Even if we go further back, Link to the Past was a game that perfected, expanded and cemented the formula of the first game into what it is now, making even Ocarina take from what Link to the Past built. Wind Waker will try to return to the open world formula using these new simulations that the GameCube allowed, allowing the player to move outside of a single island, making the world feel bigger and the adventure even more dangerous and magical. But Twilight was just created by the promise of horseback battles, and how fun Miyamoto thought firing arrows was with the implementation of motion controls in the new Wii console, because Twilight was first being developed for the GameCube. And that wasn't enough, the game had to be rebuilt for these new mechanics, and the next main Zelda title will just be more of the same. It will be created completely around the motion controls that we allowed, but at doing that, it would abandon all of the things that made Zelda Zelda. It wasn't an adventure anymore, where you could lose yourself in a world and find things for yourself. It became a story in rails, where you were just a passenger and the magic the series had felt gone. It was still successful, but it was a game that felt off in some way. Just look at this Monster Inc. reject. It had cool moments, but Zelda was more than cool moments. It was a huge adventure every player took on. Travel the land of Hyrule to fight a Totongo inside a volcano, or fighting Ganon inside a pyramid while stranded in a bleak future, or fighting a Molduga in a desert island while listening to one of the best compositions ever created for a boss battle. And Nintendo knew that. It's not just a fan hating on a game or a misconception, making everyone point at me saying,
What the fuck you talking about? The Skyward Sword is my favorite Zelda game.
that game was a breaking point for the franchise, and it made them pivot back to what made the franchise special. And the best way to do that was going back to their roots. They created a direct sequel to Link to the Past, the first game that cemented Zelda's award-winning formula, and they built upon it, making a game that even arguably passes the original one, bringing that old world back to life, and adding a new rent item system, letting you choose your own adventure since the beginning instead of going from Dungeon 1 to Dungeon 8 in order. You were the one in control, making this game a huge success, a game that understood what Zelda was back in the day, before Skyward Sword, before Twilight Princess, and even before Ocarina. The developers and gamers had a glimpse of what it felt to play the raw experience that original Zelda and its sequel was. No, not you, I'm sorry. There's a door. It's not a bad game, he's just special. And this magic that the game brought was a test to see how the public reacted, because Nintendo was cooking something in the back burner. Something special, something different, something that started by looking like this. They were 100% real when they said they wanted to go back to the franchise roots and make a Zelda game they would have made if the technology allowed them back then. And this thought process let them build upon this game that revolutionized gaming, that led them to build a sequel that revolutionized gaming, that led them to create a jumping generation that revolutionized gaming, to finally reveal the next Zelda that will revolutionize gaming. This game took everything Zelda was meant to be and wore it in its sleeve. This franchise was created by Satoru Miyamoto. You probably heard of him before. But he created this game based on how it felt when he explored caves near his house when he was a small child. This feeling of adventure and discovery was the key ingredient in the games. Encountering secret caves, or finding ghosts and having to discover how to get rid of them, or climbing mountains just to find a new creature that is stronger than you and any other creature, making you have to become stronger to come back and take them on. Made use of the items you found along the way to destroy borders of exploration and keep making the world even bigger. And Breath of the Wild took this and dialed it up to 1,000,000. You could use part of monsters you found in combination with the world around you to explore and move around the world. You could use the world around you to your benefit, like making bonfires, boats, or even weapons to take down the monsters in the world. Freedom was so big that you could even just walk to the final boss and take on it after you unlock the paraglider. Your skill, sense of discovery, and exploration was everything needed. And all of that while being in this giant and beautiful world. I could spend a whole video talking about what makes Breath of the Wild one of the best games ever created. Period. It has an insane amount of work and good design behind it, and even its inherent flaws are minuscule. And everyone knows it. It's not a secret or anything. This game is a masterpiece in plain sight. And the hate it gets from Zelda fans is just for the fact that they miss dungeons and the safety of just turning your brain off and following a path the game gives you, instead of having this overwhelming amount of options in the game. Even though you could just, do the main mission and call it a day, and the impact this game had in the gaming scene is unquestionable. Sending the gaming scene into an open world frenzy, trying to replicate what this game accomplished for years, and even spawning a juggernaut in the way. Even if the creators of the game says it hurts them to be compared to Zelda Breath of the Wild, I mean, come on. Cementing the third time the Zelda franchise revolutionized gaming. But the story doesn't end there, since this video is about what happened to Zelda after Breath of the Wild. Years after, Nintendo wanted to keep expanding Breath of the Wild, but they had so many ideas that instead of just pushing a huge ass DLC, they decided to bring an old card into the table and release a direct sequel to a big Zelda game. revealing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. One of the best games ever created, and my personal favorite game I've ever played. After the banger and genuinely amazing piece of art that Breath of the Wild was, I was intrigued if the sequel was gonna reach the same level or drown in an endless ocean of the darkness beneath its prequel shadow. And I have to say that this game makes Breath of the Wild look like a tech dev. Everything that was possible in Breath of the Wild is possible here and a lot more. And with the new fusions tech added, every single item you find in the world is useful. Every fruit can be used as ammo with different effects. Every rock, every cart, every horn. This game finally broke the code of the empty open world everyone fears. If you pick everything in an open world, but you never use it, like the crafting system from Elden Ring, then what's the point? But here, everything you pick is useful in some way or another. And the game finally tackled one of the biggest criticisms of Breath of the Wild, being the lot amount of enemy variety. Here we have a lot of enemies from older games finally coming back. A Dodongo like, the Shield Eater, freaking Gyarados! Holy shit, is that Gogma? And this made me have one of my favorite moments in the game. You see, Gyarados, if you ever played other Zelda games, have a form where they have bandages all over like mummies, and they are weak to fire. And remembering that made me one-shot the first Gyarados I saw without having reused Spirit yet, because my knowledge from the series was actually freaking useful. And that is something only possible in a game like this, being part of a franchise like this. This game brought back Zelda staples but showed us how they would work inside the Breath of the Wild engine and universe. And a lot of people also shit on the huge empty parts of Breath of the Wild that I didn't care a lot about because they helped me feel immersed in the world. And that's their use. It is awesome. The game gives you this option of turning off your UI to help you see the world. They want you to feel like this Hyrule is real, and they did an amazing work at that. But for those people, here we got a main world to explore, filled with a lot of caves that weren't present in the first game, as well as, wells and a lot more. And also we have a subterranean map and a floating freaking map that expands this world in a fantastic, massive way, making this game a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And already knowing the map in the game makes you want to explore those places you really like in the last one, to see what these locations will bring this time around. It's just a fantastic game. But if you've been part of video games discourse for, a little bit, you can see that the hate towards Breath of the Wild is growing, and the hate towards Tears of the Kingdom is really forced but immense. People really like to talk shit about this game for the fact that it's just the last one, but better. Kind of part of what a sequel is meant to be. Link Between Worlds is linked to the past with added mechanics and bosses. Majora's Mask is Ocarina with added mechanics and a different map. Phantom Hourglass is the one that deviates from the prequel because of the fact that it's a completely different system. But those games are beloved, and this one isn't? But I get it, it's the same map and can be a letdown, and having almost the same mechanics and visuals can be a downer. I guess. That's what I say if I hated having fun. What the fuck? I don't know, I genuinely don't get the hate. Every argument I heard about is easily proven wrong without effort, really. And it just feels like people are afraid of change, as always. When a franchise adds something new and fresh to a formula being used for years, you can count on fans getting angry because it's not the same game they played for hundreds of times. Quick behavior, in my opinion. But most of the time, people will pick Breath of the Wild over Tears of the Kingdom. I know people in my life, in the real world, who have told me this. And my question is, why? The game is Breath of the Wild, but better in every way, shape, or form. There is no denying that. Its literal conception idea from the team behind it was, let's make Breath of the Wild, but better. This was supposed to be a DLC that got out of hand, and they gave us a game better than the last one with 3x the content. So, why? And I've come to the realization that I think it makes sense. It's not that people like Breath of the Wild better, it's just that they love how they felt the first time they played it. A friend just visited my hometown for work, and I picked her up to show her around. And while we were in the car, I was showing her the places I usually go with my friends that live here, and told her stories of when I was younger and how I used to pick up tadpoles from the park-used streets away from my house, and how I would raise them with my siblings, and we saw them growing their legs. Or how when I started growing up, a friend I had for years and me started to actually feel something from one another, and how we would text while looking through the window since our rooms were in front of each other. Or how we will have rock wars in empty slots between houses. I don't know the difference between rocks and stones, so yeah, whichever these ones are. Or just hang out on a giant fallen tree that was our gathering spot and we called it our treehouse. And that filled me up with nostalgia. I felt sentimental for those days. How it felt to not have a worry in life, don't feel useless because you can't get a job, or pressured by your internal clock, just happy with everything around you, even if it was just a rock. Or a stone. And that is what is happening with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild was this massive, loud, formula-breaking title that reignited Zelda and shoot it past what it already was, probably having two games that now were thought to be the best games ever created. A massive jump in the franchise formula, style, and feel. It was new, it was bold, it was Zelda. And Tears of the Kingdom is the same, but better. It doesn't feel this magnificent jump in the franchise or a bold new take, it just feels like you're playing Breath of the Wild, but better, because it is just that. And people take this feeling they had when playing the new beautiful Zelda game to playing its sequel really to heart. This jumps from making something new to the point that the whole world wants to be you, want to mimic you, and want to take part on the movement you did, to just being better is the reason this game is seen this way. It doesn't mean it's bad, it doesn't mean it didn't do a good job. It's just comparing itself to its older brother who told the joke first, even if your joke is better. And that's the thing, I think that's the exact reason I love Tears of the Kingdom so much. Breath of the Wild made everyone wanted to jump into the open world wagon and try and keep failing. Even Bethesda couldn't compare, one company that is known for their open world games. So, for me Tears of the Kingdom is proof that Breath of the Wild wasn't a fluke. Even after years and years of different studios and developers trying to get a piece of the pie, no one could come close to what Zelda did. Not even the massive successes like Genshin Impact. Even if you hate me, Red Dead Redemption 2. It's big, it's cool, but the world doesn't have the freedom Breath of the Wild gives to the player. These games are not even close to the design prowess of Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom is better. Tears prove to everyone again how to make an open world, just like Breath of the Wild, but even better. Tears just showed us how to improve upon perfection. And yeah, maybe Tears wasn't the one that reinvented the wheel, or the one that made Zelda break the mold for the third time, but it is the one that sealed the deal, showing the world what Zelda is really about, and how to perfect it. A single sequel that proved this current Zelda team is talking real shit. And I can't wait for the next big experiment in the Switch 2. A game that hopefully every other studio is gonna want to copy again for the next couple of years. And with that, maybe finally people can start replaying and realizing that Tears of the Kingdom is a fantastic game that shouldn't be living underneath its own shadow.